These are the key people who ran these investigations. Tell me any other time you've seen a federal agency where that has taken place with the key people at the top who ran the Clinton investigation and who started and ran the Russian investigation. That's the biggest problem.
That's Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan on the story last night, reacting after House lawmakers grilled Justice Department official Bruce Ohr in a closed-door session on Capitol Hill. Tom Dupree, former Deputy Assistant Attorney General under President George W. Bush, joins me now. Tom, what, by the way, and we'll get back to the fired-up Jim Jordan that was there for a second, what has changed since that closed-door meeting happened? We're told it went on for hours. What came out of it?
Well, we're still getting bits and pieces of the report. I think what came out of it is that in many respects it actually raises more questions than it answers, namely, who knew about the dossier? What exactly was the nature of Bruce Ohr's involvement? Who did he share the information with? Both the substance of what he was apparently communicating with Mr. Steele, as well as his own personal interest or potential personal interest in the matter. So it's useful, I think, that these questions are being asked. But again, from my perspective at least, there are still many unanswered questions that remain to be filled in. So,
Tom, Democrats are using this as an opportunity to say Republicans look desperate. They're bashing this as it continues. You just saw that fired up Jim Jordan saying, look, you wouldn't be making that case if you were looking at the facts. What are they missing?
Well, I think from the congressman's perspective, what they're missing is the fact that there apparently were a number of fairly senior leaders, agency officials, who were privy in some way, shape, or form to this material as it was being circulated within the agency. There's also the question about Mr. Ohr's own personal interest in it, whether or not this is a scenario where, based on his involvement, his interest, his personal beliefs, he should have just extricated himself from the situation and stepped aside. I'm not sure we've seen a smoking gun here at this point. And again, the information is kind of coming out in bits and pieces. It was closed door, so we don't know exactly what was said. But I think it is useful to put a spotlight on it, just so we can figure out the answers to what actually happened in 2016.
Well, the president certainly continues to do just that. He tweeted this, quote, wow, Nellie Ohr, Bruce Ohr's wife, is a Russia expert who is fluent in Russian. She worked for Fusion GPS, where she was paid a lot. Collusion. Bruce was a boss at the Department of Justice and is unbelievably still there. That is remarkable, Tom.
It is. I can't think of too many other instances in which the president has targeted a single employee with an agency for termination. We'll see how that plays out. I think this is a classic situation. When I was at the Justice Department, one thing I would always drill home to people is that you need to avoid even the appearance of impropriety. And so if it is a situation where your motives could be questioned, the safest course, the best course usually, is just to step aside and let people who would not be similarly conflicted make these determinations. Because even if you weren't affected or your decisions weren't affected, it can create the appearance of favoritism. And I think that's what we're seeing play out here, where there are a lot of tough questions being asked. We'll see where it all ultimately ends up.
And as far as Jim Jordan is concerned, firing back at Democrats like Elijah Cummings and Jerry Nadler from New York, he says it's obvious the FBI knew but didn't tell the court. He lays out the facts for them about Bruce and Nellie Ohr's involvement. He writes about Christopher Steele's extreme bias against the president, and the Clinton campaign paid for the dossier. So if you were to crystal ball this for us, where does this all go? Do we get some of those answers? You're saying that this closed-door session led to more questions.
My guess is it's going to be very difficult to pin down absolutely everything that happened. There is just a lot that went on behind the scenes that is not going to be reflected in emails, text, other documents to figure out exactly who knew what when. I suspect that the most we're going to get is we're going to get partial slices from Mr. Ohr, maybe from some of his colleagues, about what they knew and how they acted on this information and how they handled it. But there may just be a lot that at the end of the day remains shrouded in mystery.
There's some Democrats who are warning that this could tarnish the capabilities of the Justice Department in fighting Russian aggression in the future. Is that a fair concern as this continues?
I think it is a concern that there may be a sense in which the American people could start losing faith in the Justice Department as an institution, which from my perspective would be wrong, and frankly, it would be a tragedy. I think the truth here is that the vast majority of Justice Department employees and FBI employees are people who play it straight to the vest. They are just the facts, ma'am, type of people. They don't have political leanings. Now, there may be bad apples, as there always are in organizations, and if there are, we should identify them, and we should take the proper measures to make sure that their partisan influences don't affect their behavior. But at the end of the day, I think the DOJ and the FBI are a force for good in our nation.
We'll end on that. Tom Dupree, great to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.